Interest groups. Food for thought. What's on the school menu today? French fries, chips, or baked potatoes? Believe it or not, people debate about what is and should be on your school lunch tray. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is responsible for creating nutritional guidelines for school lunches and wants to limit the amounts of white potatoes and other starchy vegetables to 1 cup a week, or 2 servings. This proposal affects everyone from the potato farmer to the cafeteria worker to the students eating the tater tots. Not surprisingly, all of these people have differing opinions. Eat your broccoli. Supporters of limiting potato servings argue that potatoes are often served fried or topped with high-calorie items like sour cream, cheese, and bacon. They also worry that when students are given a choice between French fries or something like carrots and green beans, they too often choose the fries. Poor eating choices made early in life lead to obesity and numerous long-term health problems like diabetes and heart disease. Did you know the school cafeteria is the largest restaurant in the country, serving over 31 million students every single day? Would you like fries with that? Opponents of the proposed change offer that potatoes are full of nutritional value and aren't always served in unhealthy ways. Fries can be baked rather than fried, and baked potatoes can be topped with healthier alternatives like salsa. They also argue that potatoes are a cheap and plentiful option for a vegetable serving and that limiting potatoes would increase school lunch costs around the nation. Interested? The people on all sides of the argument have an interest in the outcome of the debate. That just means they are interested or concerned with how things will end up. People pay attention to things that will likely affect their lives. How might limiting starchy vegetables like potatoes affect students, potato farmers, or schools? Well, let's think of one right now before you get started. How might it affect students? Well, it would mean, just for one, less potato. Potato. Again, forgive how bad I am at drawing on this. It also might impact potato farmers. Well, if there is going to be less potato, that would mean that there is less money because they won't be selling as many potatoes. And also, how might limiting starchy vegetables like potatoes affect schools? Well, it's going to mean that lunch could cost more because potatoes are so cheap. What I'd like you to do right now is look through this and find one more piece of evidence to support what students, potato farmers, and schools and how they would be impacted by limiting potatoes. How does individual interest in a debate lead to action? What if people with these interests have other interests, like working or going to school, and can't spend their entire day learning about what is happening and doing something about it? Potato farmers and nutritionists have little time for marching in front of the USDA or making speeches to the public. Grouping interests. One way people can have their voice heard is to find others with the same concerns. Interest groups gather people and resources to support public policies that help their members. They work to persuade policymakers like senators and representatives to support government actions that help their members and oppose actions that hurt them. They also work to influence public opinion by educating the general public about their point of view. In this way, interest groups advocate or promote the needs and wants of the group. There are hundreds of interest groups in the United States working on many different types of issues. Types of interest groups. Most groups can be divided into 5 different categories. Public interest focuses on topics that affect the general public, like education, the environment, and politics. Economic interest promotes the economic interests of their members in business, labor, and trade organizations. Professional groups advocates for people in a particular profession, such as doctors, lawyers, and teachers. Ideological groups promotes policies based on a set of core political or religious beliefs. Or single issue groups focuses on one narrow topic, such as immigration or drunk driving. Taking sides. In the school lunch potato battle, one group that supports the limits on starchy veggies is the Center for Science in the Public Interest, CSPI. The CSPI is a strong advocate for nutrition and food safety from a scientific perspective. On the other side of the discussion is the National Potato Council, which advocates for government policies that help the U.S. potato growers prosper. Both groups work to inform the USDA and elected officials that their position on the core issue is the correct one. Think of two goals for each group might have that would either support or oppose the new USDA limits on potatoes in school lunches. I'll help you out with this one a little bit. I want you to come up with both the goals, but let's think about which side would support it and which one would oppose it. So we're looking at supporting or opposing new limits on potatoes. So what groups would support limiting potatoes? What group would be against limiting potatoes? Well, if I look up there in the top, the CSPI is the one that is going to support cutting potatoes, and of course the National Potato Council, which are the people who make potatoes, are going to oppose limiting potatoes. On your own, I want you to think of two goals for each of those organizations. On page 3 of your packet, we're going to figure out how to solve the potato problem. Follow the steps below to create your own interest group and participate in the debate. Which group do you want to be a part of and represent? We can circle 1. Students, potato farmers, schools, or nutritionists. Well, I'm going to do the easiest one, and that's the one that you can really believe in, and that is students. Step 2, what is your position on the limitation of starchy foods in school lunches? Circle 1. You can tell me you think it's a great idea, and you're okay with losing the potatoes in your lunch, or you can think it is a bad idea. I'm not going to tell you which one to do. You pick. Step 3, what do you want to be the name of your interest group? Now, I'm going to make a quick note here. Please take your time on this one, because one of your quiz questions is going to be to write down the name of your interest group, and I'm totally giving bonus points for people who come up with creative names for their interest group. Step 4, what reasons can you give to support your position? Try for at least 2. So, think, why am I in favor of cutting potatoes? Why am I against cutting back on potatoes? And I want you to tell me why. So if you, I hope you have a couple ideas about potatoes, but if not, go back into the reading, especially the first slide, and find me 2 good options. Step 5, inform the public. Create a poster telling people about your interest in the group's position on the potato problem. So come up with something creative to tell me I support more potatoes or I am against potatoes. Come up with something creative. And step 6, inform the government. Use this space to list 3 things that you would tell your elected official about the potato problem. Try to be convincing. I mean, one of your points should definitely be that potatoes are delicious. So you can figure that one out from there. But I would like everyone to try to fill this one in on their own or with a partner. Influencing government. Interest groups use several strategies to influence government. The amount of influence that interest groups have on government is a major issue of concern for many people today. At the same time, millions of citizens rely on interest groups to make their voices heard. Lobbying for support. Interest groups hire lobbyists to meet with the members of the government and discuss the group's issues and concerns. Lobbyists say that their job is to provide information to decision makers. The information lobbyists provide has been carefully chosen to persuade the audience to take one side of an issue. Lawmakers have to be aware of the bias in the lobbyist message and consider both sides before they make any decision. Bias, favoring one view over another. Endorsing candidates. During elections, some interest groups may endorse or officially support candidates. Groups choose a candidate to support based on what the candidate has done in the past and where the candidate stands on issues important to the group. Once the candidate is in office, he or she may introduce new bills, support existing laws, or use influence on important committees. In return, the interest group encourages its members to vote for that person in the next election. In addition, the interest group may donate money to the candidate's election campaign. Raising money. Interest groups raise money to support their efforts to influence the government. Some people worry that interest groups can buy candidates by contributing lots of money to the candidate's election campaign. Once in office, such a candidate might be more concerned about pleasing the interest group than representing the voters. The government addresses this concern with strict rules about how interest groups may collect and donate money to political campaigns. Those that do must form a political action committee, or PAC, that follows strict government rules about giving money to political candidates. Not everyone agrees about what kinds of rules interest groups should have to follow. Some people fear that campaign financing laws limit the ability of people to support causes they care about. Others fear that interest groups have grown to have more influence on government than the public at large. They believe that these groups should be controlled. The debate continues as some interest groups and wealthy individuals who support them find loopholes or ways around the campaign finance laws. Strategies for influencing government. inform the public about elected officials about issues that matter to the group, donate money to political campaigns in exchange for support by the candidate, endorse a candidate running for office, and suggest that the group's members vote for him or her. Okay, we also have a review sheet on interest groups. There's a couple of activities like usual. There is a vocabulary. Let's do one of these together. So number one is interest. So we're going to figure out what interest is: favoring one view over another, attention paid to something, to promote or support collection of opinions or attitudes, represent groups, interest groups, and communicate with officials, how money is earned for political campaigns, organizations that help interest groups raise money for campaigns, or a group of people who work to influence government about a set of issues. So let's see what we have here. Well, if you are interested, you could be paying attention to it. And the only one I can see that's closest to promote or support, but I'm going to go with B for number one. And I'm just going to draw a line because I have such a hard time writing on this. Number two is advocate, which would be, well, if I'm advocating something, I'm promoting it. Means I care about it. And I'll tell you, C sounds pretty close to me. And the last one I'm going to do with you is political action committee. Political action committee and an interest group are going to be very similar. But of all of these, the big thing that a political action committee is going to do is raise money. So they are organizations that help interest groups raise money for campaigns. I would like you to try to do those remaining 5 on your own. Let's look at the next one. Read each interest group lobby activity and decide if it is an example of informing, donating money, or endorsing a candidate or running for office. So if I look at this one, representatives interview a candidate to see if he or she will support the group's position on nuclear plants. If so, the group will back this candidate. Well, I know endorsing a candidate means we're going to back them. So if they're making that decision, that would be endorsing. Let's do 10 together, and I will have you do the remaining 4 on your own. Volunteers from a teen health interest group go to schools and educate students about the dangers of underage drinking. Well, that's it. So if I'm educating somebody, I could be informing them. So we're going to put an I there. Figure out the remaining 4 on your own. If you're not sure, go back to the last slide of the reading, and it will be right there. And the last one, just the facts. Look at how 2 interest groups address the same question. Draw a line matching each group to the answer it would give. So the 2 groups that we have are the National Rifle Association, NRA, works to preserve law-abiding citizens' right to buy, have, and use firearms for legitimate purposes. And we have the Brady Campaign that works to prevent gun violence. It was responsible for passing the Brady Bill in 1993, which required a 5-day waiting period and a background check before someone can buy a handgun. Well, which one is going to give these answers? Guns in the home are 22 times more likely to be used in criminal, unintentional, or suicide-related shooting than in self-defense. When someone is home, a gun is used for protection in less than 2% of home invasion crimes. And our other answer is guns are used for protection 2.5 million times each year. Guns are used 3 to 5 times more often to stop crimes than to commit them. So you have to connect which 2 groups would side with either. So draw a line there. Again, if you're unsure, please ask for help. Not a mind reader. Please ask. Go ahead and get started. And that's what I have for you today. Thank you.